into the Badlands, Season 2, Episode 3, Red Sun, Silver Moon. I really love the title for this episode. I just always thought it was kind of cool. Also, probably not on purpose because it's based off of the character Sunny, but it made me think of Superman. It was a Superman Red Sun. It's a nerd thing, but it did. I like this episode. I will start off at the just right off the top with this. I was disappointed that this episode didn't focus on the conclave like I wanted it to, but based on the promo, I'm really looking forward to next week's episode because and they kind of show like, yeah, it kind of just goes all to crap. So I'm super excited for the next episode, and I don't know how many episodes we have this season, but just going off of a promo where all the Barons get together and then they have that overhead shot where like everybody's killing everybody else, I'm like, okay, this has to be like an all-out war season. That's all I can imagine with what they just showed us in the promo. So I'm really looking forward to how in the world that could possibly, come out of, how any sort of good can come out of that crazy situation. So really looking forward to that. A lot of good costumes in that promo as well. But to focus on this one, we of course have Sunny and Bajie, and they end up running into a former Clipper who is titled, his name is Nathaniel, but he was titled the Silver Moon. He was a Clipper, great Clipper who ended up escaping, and he was never found again. He's like a legendary Clipper that was able to actually escape, live life in the Badlands, and that's what he chose to do. So he as a character is something, you see it all the time. I'm sure there's an actual name for it because there's a name for every sort of term of storytelling, but I'm just going to call it the parallel hero story. So this guy, of course, lived out Sunny's life. And he's like, I was a Clipper, I was great, I didn't like what I did, so I took off. And his story differs a little bit because, of course, Sunny met Vel before he left, and that's why he took off. And this guy was just like, in general, I just killed a bunch of people, I'm ready to go. So his redemption came, of course, in the form of finding someone that he loved. They end up having a child, and he kind of tells Sunny, basically, your story is my story, and my story sucks, so your story is going to end really crappy too. Because it turns out that not his Baron, and it was kind of an interesting way where he told the story, like, I always assumed it was going to be my Baron coming after me, and then it turned out that it was just the brother of a random nomad that my Baron had me clip. And it took him years to find me, and instead he found my wife and child and decapitated them both. And it was like, wow, that's a really crazy way for that to go down. And so after that, he decided to go back into the life of just being a killer. But he didn't really do it for bounties or anything like that. It was just, if people came along, that's what happened. But he just kind of wanted to live his life. So, of course he tells this story to Sunny and is like, sorry, the best thing that you can do, the best gift that you can give the woman you love and your child is to not find them. Just leave them alone and let them live their life. Which, of course, considering Bill and the baby are with Quinn, that's obviously wrong. But it was pretty cool the way they did that story, and it's a story I've definitely seen where it's always like that. Some character comes in and they always have a story that parallels the hero's story. It's always like that in all of TV. Anything when there's drama, it's like, man, I wish I told this person before they died, and it's like, man, maybe I should tell that person the truth. It's always like that. It's always some other person lived the same story and they regret it, or it just sucked for them, so the main character has to figure out, either I do this now or regret it like they do, or I just find some way to actually make it work. So with Sunny, he has to find some way to make it work. And that's where it gets to like the craziness of these two characters, because we have this man who has, he mentions like 999 tattoo marks. So he's a nice dude. He saves them and everything. They have who knows how much of bounties especially for these two guys. Who knows? He ends up saving their lives. He battles these people. He doesn't need to fight for any reason whatsoever. He did that crazy kill, his last kill when he decapitated the dude and then he just kicked his head off the bridge. I was like, he didn't need to do that, but holy crap. So he saves their lives, fights some random people he didn't need to really fight or deal with. Unless he wanted, to get the bounty, he just makes it easier. But he didn't want to kill them or anything like that. And he just talked with Sunny and it was cool. They just relaxed. And then we get to the end where Sunny and Bajie are about to take off. And that's when they go through, and this dude is dressed up like he was in the beginning, where he's ready to fight. He's got his weapon out, and it's like, alright, I know I was pretty cool. We had a parallel story lesson go on, and we talked about our philosophies of being killers, and how it drains you, and how you don't want to be that. And then he flipped the script and was like, but you are a worthy opponent, so if I end up killing you, it'll at least be worth it. Like, he turned killing into like his ultimate skill, or like a show of his greatest skill, as he put it. And he kind of channeled this really weird philosophy, and he even contradicts himself a little, because even Sunny says, like, I thought you said people like us were brothers out here, so that, you know, they could get along and just live their lives. And he kind of reverted a little bit because, you know, he sees a bit of Sunny in himself, but mostly this kind of new ideology that he adapted just because is that Sunny is worth fighting. He's worth dying against. Like, you know, I just fight until someone kills me. And, you know, I'll pick and choose certain random opponents. Even if they don't come at me, I'll go at them if I truly feel they're worth, you know, that 1,000th mark. And I was like, man, this dude, it's a bad idea. Of course, the main character is not going to die. But I did like the way it ended because, of course, this is something that you can also see fairly often. But with them having these conversations and being so similar, because both Clippers and leaving and just the tragedy that they faced, it kind of pushed Sunny to not kill this guy at the end. Like, they have their whole fight and everything. A lot of wire work in this one. I think this is probably the most wire work we've actually seen in quite a while. You know, and of course there was a lot with the Widow in the premiere, but I think this one definitely had a lot more of it, like, really close. Like, she was running a lot, so of course there was technically a ton of wire work with her, like when she was on the railings and everything, sure. But it wasn't as obvious. Like, some of the stuff they did in here, like when Sunny jumps up and he like flips using one hand onto the beams, which really got crazy once they were up there and they're, you know, trying to balance and stuff, and then they start running across. It got really crazy. It was pretty fun to watch that. So, you know, we got a lot of good wire work in there, a lot of flips, and, you know, just a lot of sword clashing. And I love the fact that this guy was really strong, and, you know, Sunny realized after a while his blade had like little chips in it. I thought that was kind of cool, and of course the blade shatters, or at least it doesn't shatter, but the top gets split off. And so Sunny's fortunately able to kick this dude, and he kicked him backwards. I thought, okay, he's gonna like fall down. He kicked him and he flipped in midair and landed through all the things. I was like, okay, he's really outdone now. Like, he's definitely done. I thought he was just gonna like fall down. They had him flip and break through every single bench. I think those were like a bunch of church pews stacked together for some odd reason. I didn't realize that until the end, because I was like, okay, what's this weird structure? And I'm pretty sure they were just a bunch of pews just stacked on top of each other. I was like, that's really weird. Makes for a cool, interesting little set piece, like the part where Sunny slides under and then he's like inside this box. I thought he was going to try to cut it and have it collapse, and then he escapes and let it, you know, fall on the guy. But then they end up fighting on top. They keep climbing the whole freaking fight, and then he, you know, sends him just cascading downward into every single bit of wood he can possibly fall into. So of course he beats the guy, and the Silver Moon says, like, I want you to kill me. Like, you are the worthy opponent. I couldn't defeat you to get a mark that I felt was worthy to put on my body, so I want you to defeat me because it's a worthy death. And of course Sunny's like, I'm not going to do that. Like, I'm kind of done with all that crap. I'm like, I fight if I have to, but, you know, he sticks to more of the brothers philosophy, where it's like, no, we're cool, I'm going to take off. He doesn't really feel that way. Silver Moon isn't too happy about that, so he tries to kill Sunny, and Bajie throws a freaking machete, slices his hand off. They steal his blade. I don't know if we'll see that guy come back or not. He could easily bleed out if he just was like, it's worth it. But technically, it wasn't Sunny that would have killed him. It, of course, would have been Bajie. So I think we're going to see him later. If not this season, then somewhere in the future, we'll see this guy come back, because they chopped his hand off. But that's kind of it. They left him. So I'm pretty sure he'll be fine, and we'll actually see him in the future. And I'm curious how that might play out, just to see what they do with him. But I thought that was a good storyline. We got a little bit extra stuff with MK. I don't know where the heck they're headed with this guy. I thought he was doing fine, and I'm like, okay, he's learning his lessons. He's getting lessons from the master, you know, directly. He has to fight his inner self. And then she's like, you know, you can't go back to like the mirror room because you fight your inner self, so you have to go, you know, it's a long road, you can't take shortcuts. I was like, that's cool. He's learning his lessons slowly, but surely he's getting there. We'll get something happen. And then he ends up finding out that, I don't even know, honestly. He finds the dude that he was talking to, and so they capture the guy because he ran away, and then they start injecting him and sticking these needles in his body, and it's to, like, suppress his power somewhat. I mean, the way they did it, where like his eyes changed colors, like they didn't even change black, they changed like gray. It's almost like he went blind. So it's like, I don't really know what to expect. Like, I know she gave an explanation, but I'm like, I don't know. Once we see something that's really off, and it's like, yeah, it's used to do this, or they use like really vague terms that's just supposed to, just like it suppresses this, and then you get like a really generic idea, like, okay, so it makes him better, but clearly in a painful way, and also his eyes change to like almost silver a little bit. So I was like, oh no, you say suppress. I feel like we might see this dude pop out as like a mind control zombie a little bit in his next episode. So I'm looking forward to exactly how that's supposed to play out. And because of that moment, MK decided that he's ready to become defiant and he's ready to take off. So I'm really curious how that's going to work out for his character, because of course he still doesn't have control, and now he knows things are a little bit weirder. And if the master deems him to be a bit too dangerous because he wants to, break out and just be in the open world where he can't even control himself, they won't let that happen, and they will suppress him, and we'll see how that turns out officially in this next episode. Because I feel like the guy's going to come back like in all shows where people are like taken over by aliens or something, and it's like, I am fine, and he'll start talking really weird, and he won't even sound like himself. I almost guarantee that's what we'll see. It'll be funny if we do, but I'm looking forward to how that's going to play out with him. Like I said, the conclave, really looking forward to that in the next episode. We get a little bit on it in this one. They talk about it. It's mostly kind of the lead up, because we have Waldo as the widow's companion. Like, he's technically not regent, but he's the one that she's taking, and of course, that leaves a very specific character behind. But with what they're doing with the conclave, I'm very curious how the compound, like the widow's compound, is actually going to operate in this next episode. Like, are they going to end up being attacked? Was that always the plan? Maybe, like, who knows, because who knows what Ryder really wants. So maybe we'll see some really good action, especially with Tilda having the blades. I'm kind of looking forward to that. So I'm excited how that's going to play out. And she was of course upset, but she'll be fine, I'm sure. And I'm also very curious, once again based off of the promo, I don't know if Waldo's going to survive this next episode, because God, what is that? It's not Lance Henriksen. I swear to God, I keep forgetting his name. But she's a special guest star, so I'm like, every time I see that in a show, I'm always, especially a show where people die all the time, I'm like, oh, don't know if he's making it. So he might not make it past the next episode. We'll see. He like caught a blade from somebody in the promo, so maybe, but obviously it's a bit harder for him to get around, and things are just dangerous. So we'll see what happens with him in this next episode. But I really enjoyed this. Of course, the final story to talk about is definitely Quinn, and I don't even know, like, this was a good episode for Quinn. I just really loved it, because not only do we have Vale tricking him into believing that he's actually cured, which was a hilarious scene for me, because I'm like, okay, he's talking to the baby, he's like, she gives me these drinks and stuff, and I'm like, before they even showed it, I was like, I'm pretty sure, I bet she's lying to him. And I'm pretty sure they had x-rays in the first season. And I was like, okay. It was kind of like, little tumor, this little thing. And as soon as she pulled that junk out, it was like this. I was like, oh, that dude is dead. So he's dying at some point. But she's giving him some sort of drugs. I almost guarantee it's going to be like some sort of mixture of painkillers and stuff to make him assume that he's feeling fine. But it's just drugs. So that's why he doesn't get the headaches. She just has him numb, literally numb to the pain. I'm like, okay, that's her slow but sure way to get rid of this guy. And then, of course, we have it revealed at the end that the south tunnels in this train station, which we find out that's where they are, because when she looked at the sign, it said something like railroad at the end. I was like, okay, they're in the train station. So I was really trying to figure out that building. So we find out that the south tunnels are a place for people to escape, because the young guy tries to escape, but he doesn't. And that's where we get a really great scene with Quinn, because he's this really crazy villain. We saw what he could do in the last season. And then in this kid is trying to escape, and then he goes through this story about when he was super young, like the very first mission that he had. Right before that, he ends up getting this blade, and he gives it to the kid. He's like, "It's my token of faith to you. Is my first ever blade." That could easily be a lie, and it was just, him being an evil genius sort of character. But he said that was like his first weapon that he'd ever received. So he gives it to the kid as faith, and he's like, but only if you can pass the test and you actually cut me. And the kid does, and he's like, good. And he just gives him the blade, and he pats him on the head, he's like, good. And I was like, this is why this character is so entertaining. I hate the guy, but so entertaining to watch, because I'm like, I thought for sure he was about to kill this kid, And then he's like super nice about it. He gives him a good story. He's like, I believe in you, and I'm sure you can become one of the greatest clippers in the Badlands. And I was like, this dude, it's just, you never freaking know. He's like Two-Face sometimes. Like, you flip a coin, he might slit your throat. I mean, you look at Vale, he'll just stab you. You're done. You try to escape. He gives you like a super epic story, and possibly, like I said, it could have been a lie about the weapon, but possibly gives you the first weapon he was ever given when he first became a Clipper. Or a Colt, you know, when they talk, because those are like the levels. So it was just crazy watching. I'm like, all right, sometimes you just gotta like this guy, and it's just really, I really hate doing that, but such a fun character to watch. It's really crazy. So I really enjoyed that scene. But Vale realizes that there is a way to escape. I'm really curious if she'll end up recruiting either the guy that she did the stitches on, or the kid that got the blade from Quinn, or both of them maybe, because that was like the thing where he's like, you know, I forgot what the kid's name was. They said like 3 times within like a minute. But his friend who fell on his sword, he was like, you know, the buddy says like can't go, and so that's when she was like, go where? And that's of course when we find out about the tunnels to escape. So it does make me wonder, will she just, you know, take off, or will she try to get some help, which would most likely result in those guys' death, especially the guy that Quinn gave the blade to. So I'm pretty sure she might end up going it alone. Also, just for a trust factor, I would think she'd go it alone because this is really risky. But I'm sure she won't escape the first time she tries. And also, of course, they kind of tease at it a little, but of course she was about to cut up the x-ray, and so the guy came in for stitches and she left the door open. Nothing happened in this episode, but I'm like, alright, I think that's a clue that things are not going to play out too well for her having these x-rays. We do find out that she cut them up, because at first I was like, she just has a drawer full of effing x-rays of him with a, you know, a brick in his head. Like, that's not smart. And then when she had the scissors, I was like, okay, because she's, you know, the writers aren't dumb. That makes sense. So I was like, alright, she does cut them up and everything, but that's like that one thing. One thing distracts you, and you forget that you didn't do that one thing, especially when you're so used to it. Things become so commonplace that if it doesn't happen, oddly enough, you can just assume like, yeah, I did it because I always do it, and that might be how they do it, where she believes she did it because she always does it, and then she forgets that one time. She leaves the door open that one time. For whatever reason, someone walks in that one time, starts snooping around, and then of course, that's when things really get chaotic. So I'm pretty sure that's what we're going to be headed towards. That might be kind of in the middle of the season where she just has to finally make that great escape. But a lot of stories in this, as always. I think they've been doing a really good job with that too, where they've kind of jumped around a lot with literally like 4 different stories, because of course the Widow has her own thing going. She's kind of become more of a character now, because of course with Sonny, when he was with Quinn, it was like the two of them were kind of joined together. The Widow was one of the enemies, and she was definitely one of the bigger characters, but everyone was kind of focused within the same area, so it was kind of just like, yeah, Sonny's the main character. But now everyone's so split up, everyone seems like more of an important character. The Widow always has her big moments with Tilda. Obviously Sonny does, obviously the main character, but Quinn and Bill, they have their own story going. So there are just so many different things happening all at once, and it's like, this is really, really fun to watch. I like the way that they're doing that. So really enjoyed the multitude of stories. I guess technically it's 3 stories, since Quinn and Bill are in one location, but still really great. Or no, because MK was the 4th story. I was forgetting somebody. But everyone's in all these different locations, but the story's always, you know, the pacing is always good, and everybody's going through their crazy journey, one little insane deadly piece at a time. So really good episode. Great step forward for Vale. So I'm looking forward to what we're going to get from her in this next episode. But of course, cannot wait for the conclave. Well, unfortunately, in my last review, I assumed that this was the conclave, so I asked what you guys wanted to see in that. So instead, I will ask what you guys thought about Sonny versus the Silver Moon, and kind of that story, and just the parallels that they had and the differences that they had as characters. But, of course, I also want to know what you guys thought about this episode in general, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, at least favorite parts. Like I said, I want to know what you guys thought about their journey. I thought it was pretty good. Like I said, I feel like it was sort of the normal thing. This character lived the story, and then the main character is going to live the same story, but they're going to change it at the end, and it'll be better for them. That's just a thing you see in TV all the time. I didn't hate it, though. I especially with this type of world, it was very interesting to see that, because these are characters who are like raised as killer slaves, and it's very interesting. Even if it's a parallel story sort of trope, it's still really good with these types of characters, because it's such a different thing for them to leave that insane, you know, sort of lifestyle behind. And they even did it for different reasons. Like I said, Sonny met Vale, and that's why he left. And the Silver Moon left just because he was tired of killing so many people. It drained him, and then he met the woman he loved. So parallels, but slight differences in there, and I really enjoyed it myself. But like I said, want to know what you guys thought about their journeys together and journeys separately as well before they met. And of course, want to know what you guys thought about the episode in general. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.